October 10th, 1893. The sea did not want me to land. Waves slammed against the black rocks with a fury I had only ever read of in scripture. Rain fell soundlessly, as though heaven mourned something it could not name. The sky was bruised grey, heavy with silence. I arrived on this forgotten island under holy command, tasked with assessing the ruins of the Convent of St. Marcelus. They want to know if it is fit for reclamation. Nothing about this place feels reclaimable. The boatman refused to tie off his vessel. He left me at the jagged shore with only my case, my habit, and a single lantern. I watched his silhouette disappear into the mist as I began the climb. The convent loomed ahead like a sleeping relic, its stone archway crowned by withered ivy, its crucifix tilting forward, as if bowing in grief. The gate groaned when I pushed it open, not with rust, but with reluctance. Inside, the silence was almost unholy. Dust lay untouched on every pew. Hymnals remained open as if waiting for voices long since lost. The altar stood, pristine beneath a veil of cobwebs, flanked by statues of saints whose faces had eroded just enough to seem mournful. My footsteps echoed too loudly. I expected decay, yet what I found was preservation. And not the gentle kind. There was no smell of rot, no sign of animals nesting. Only the dampness of centuries and the cold that crept along my spine, tightening its grip the deeper I moved through the nave. I lit the lantern and noticed a painting above the altar. The Madonna shielding something behind her robes. Something not visible. In the sacristy, I found the last entries of a ledger, dated 1821. The ink had run in places, but one line chilled me. Salt must never be disturbed. Even rain is a danger. I do not yet understand what they meant. I have prayed for clarity, but my prayers feel unanswered here. Tonight I shall sleep in the rectory. The storm has worsened, and the wind howls like a choir without tongues. October 11th, 1893. Last night, I dreamt I was not alone. The rectory's wooden frame groaned under the weight of the storm. Water slipped through the cracks like cold fingers against my skin. My lantern flickered even without wind. And yet, it wasn't the rain or cold that kept me from sleep. It was the silence between the thunder, as if something waited for it to pass. This morning, I returned to the chapel. The light outside was grey and hollow, barely illuminating the stained glass windows, which remained intact but dim, their saints now strangers in their own house. I swept the altar steps as a ritual, though my hands trembled. When I turned to leave, I saw it. The crucifix I'd noted the night before, the one hanging above the choir loft, was no longer there. I searched for signs of collapse, but the nails remained in place, undisturbed. The crucifix itself was found hours later, propped against the confessional door. I do not recall placing it there. Worse still, as I sat to record this in the sacristy, I heard the sound of whispering, soft, breathless, not outside, behind me. I turned quickly, but the room was empty. I checked the corridors. All doors were shut. I tested my mind. Perhaps isolation has already taken its toll. Yet when I opened the confessional out of instinct, I discovered something impossible. A rosary, wound tightly around the grill, knotted as if held in place by unseen hands. Attached was a parchment, brittle with age, upon which was written in smeared ink, Domina Nostra, Oculos avertit. Our Lady averts her eyes. I feel I am being prepared for something, or perhaps judged. The storm has not relented. The salt in the apse smells stronger than before, sharp, almost metallic. It stings my nose now when I kneel near it. I keep thinking of that line in the ledger. Even rain is a danger. What is the salt holding back? Tonight, I will sleep in the chapel. If I am to confront the history here, it will be in the presence of the altar. May the Lord keep watch, if he still watches this place. October 12th, 1893, I did not sleep. The chapel was colder than the rectory. The rain had seeped through the stones, gathering in shallow pools that glistened under my lantern's dim glow. I laid my bedding beside the altar, unwilling to rest near the salt-lined apse. Still, I watched it. All night, the salt was moving. At first, I thought it was the water. Rain slipping through the broken roof, but the water would have washed it away. This was different. The salt contracted, then spread, like breath, like something beneath it exhaled. I knelt and stared until dawn, whispering prayers I barely remembered. When light came, a grey, sickly hue, I saw that part of the salt circle had dissolved. A patch the size of a human hand was now gone, exposing the stone beneath, and there, where the salt had receded, a dark stain had emerged. It was wet. I touched it with my glove and drew back immediately. It was not water. It was thicker, oily, and warm. I cleaned the area with holy water and remarked the circle with fresh salt from the kitchen stores. But as I did so, I heard a sound that made my soul freeze. Breathing, not my own. It was low, almost imperceptible. A wet, labored inhalation that seemed to come from beneath the stone. I stepped back. The sound stopped. But when I turned, I saw something more terrifying than any demon from scripture. Footprints, bare, human, and fresh, leading away from the altar. The floor around them was dry. Only the prints were wet. They trailed toward the narthex, then vanished before the door. No one else is here. I know what I saw. This afternoon, I attempted to ring the chapel bell for help. The rope had been cut cleanly, the frayed edge dusted with salt. I climbed the tower myself, but the mechanism had rusted into silence. The storm is worsening. Thunder no longer cracks. It grinds like teeth. The sea groans around the island, and I feel this place slipping from time, from light, from God. I write now by candle, watching the salt line once more. It breathes still, shallow and steady, like it's waiting for night. October 13th, 1893. I woke to the sound of my own name, whispered from the walls. It was still night, though my candle had burned down to a knot of wax. The chapel was lit only by the moon behind thick clouds, filtering dimly through the stained glass. My ears rang, and then again, just behind me, Emma. It was Sister Agatha's voice. She died in 1821, according to the ledger. I stood slowly, the cold stone biting through the soles of my shoes. The salt line was broken once more. A narrow gap now ran clean through the circle, as if carved by a blade. But I no longer believe it is the salt that breaks. I believe it is allowed to break. The black stain had grown. In its center, a fine crack had formed in the stone, no thicker than a hair. From it, a sound emerged. Not a voice this time, but a low murmur. Words in Latin, ancient and disjointed, spoken with the weight of ages. Tu fuisti mea. You were mine, not you are, you were. I dropped my crucifix. It clattered across the floor and slid into the gap. I did not retrieve it. I fled to the rectory and barricaded the door. I prayed, desperately, loudly, but the voices did not stop. They multiplied, soft, wet echoes of sisters long gone, their tones familiar but wrong. Their prayers were spoken backwards. Their laughter came from beneath the floor. And through it all, one voice remained, deep, calm, claiming, Tu fuisti mea. This morning, I found pages torn from my journal scattered across the nave. each soaked in salt water. The ink had bled into the fibers, but some lines had been rewritten. Over my own words, as if by an unseen hand. She belongs to the silence now. I will go below. There must be something beneath the apse, a cellar, a crypt, a wound. If I do not return, let this serve as warning. This place does not want to be reopened. It wants to be remembered. October 14th, 1893. The door to the apse was never locked, only hidden. Behind the altar, beneath a tapestry of St. Marcelus shielding a lamb, I found a seam in the wall. I pushed. It gave way with a sigh, exhaling centuries of dust and silence. A narrow staircase spiraled downward, carved directly into the bedrock. I took only my lantern and the name of God, though both felt dimmer with each step. The descent led to a chamber, circular, damp, and hollow like a lung. The air pulsed. In the center stood a pit ringed in ancient salt. The floor stained black, the stones grooved with Latin etched by bleeding hands. It was here the monks had buried it. Not a body, a presence. I could feel it before I saw anything. A deep sorrow, old and cold, that gripped the back of my skull like an unseen hand. I approached the pit. Inside nothing moved, yet the feeling grew. A sense that my skin did not belong to me. Then it spoke, not aloud, inside me. You broke the vow. You left once, but you are mine again. My lantern blew out. There was no wind. In perfect blackness, I felt warmth on my face, breath. Then came the voices. Agatha, Lucia, even Mother Yvonne. They sang. But the melody was wrong, reverent but corrupted, familiar but reversed. They called me by my childhood name. The floor trembled. I do not remember climbing the stairs. I awoke in the nave, lying face down in the salt. The veil I once wore as a novice was draped across the altar, burned at the edges. Something followed me up. Not physically, not yet. But it has tasted breath again. The salt no longer holds. It breathes freely now, waiting only for a name. And in the final page of this journal, carved not by ink, but by my own fingernail, I leave only this. He is beneath all silence. Do not come to this island. Do not rebuild the convent. Let the sea cover it again. Let salt be salt.